Gianni Infantino, I'm sure, he's like rubbing all his lucky pennies that Inter Miami doesn't lose this game because he needs Lionel Messi in the knockouts of this tournament. Now, if they're doing it the same as the World Cup, it's going to be PSG if they finish in second, which would, of course, then draw more eyeballs because there's going to be all sorts of drama with him playing against his former team that he doesn't really like. Welcome to the latest and greatest episode of the Player Manager Podcast. I'm Zealand. That's Julian. And we have one very, very important question to ask you. Have you subscribed if you're watching this on YouTube? Or if you're listening on Spotify or somewhere, have you followed or whatever the button is? Because 66% of the people that watched the last episode of this podcast have not subscribed to the channel, which, as Julian is pointing out through his excellent miming, that's thoroughly unacceptable. Shout out to Tech, who commented, "It's crazy how I've been watching these episodes for the last weeks and I completely forgot to subscribe until now." That is crazy, but we are happy to have rectified your craziness. And we have plenty of crazy stuff to talk about today. The U.S. national team had a perfect group. So why doesn't it feel like it? The Club World Cup, things are still happening. We're still trying to decide whether we care. We found Julian Gressel's biggest ever fan, and it's not me. I'm kind of offended.
Yeah, we're going to have to get on a quest to find your biggest fan now, too.
Well, there's so many. I'm just kidding. It is a very interesting story, and I'm excited to get into it. And there's a whole lot of drama that's gone on within the Club World Cup itself. And we'll try and catch you up on the results first, obviously, as we grease the skis. Because we realize that most of the stuff we talk about, unless it's me talking about Uzbekistan or Guatemala, you probably already know what happened. With the Club World Cup, you can't be too sure. So Atletico Madrid's been knocked out by Botafogo. That happened earlier today, the day that we're recording. PSG beat Seattle, so it's Botafogo and PSG going through. And that highlights really what's been a consistent thread, a consistent theme in this tournament, which is that South American teams have done really well. If there's one thing that's surprising in the Club World Cup, it is that. So I'm going to posit to you the player half of the Player Manager podcast. Why are South American teams doing so well in this tournament, and how big of a deal is it that Botafogo has advanced? And I'll answer my own question.
I think it's cool. I think it's what I think we kind of wanted out of this tournament a little bit, to kind of get that comparison between the different regions of the world and the different play of the world. Botafogo is a great team, as they've shown. I think their support has probably been the absolute best. If you look at the fans around the stadiums, the general vibe those teams give off, like they're ready and they're up for these games, while European teams might not be at that level. So there's certainly different level of intensity there. And I know we'll talk about some of the fans later, but like even watching the Bayern Boca game, oh my goodness, in Miami, and it was an insane atmosphere. And I don't know. I mean, it just seems like the South American teams are maybe a little bit closer to the European teams than everybody thought.
I mean, I'm struggling with how much does this matter? Yeah. Right? Because I feel like, obviously, the European teams have come into this tournament. I don't know if they thought it was going to be a walk or not. I don't think they were trying to disrespect these other teams, but they have not come into this tournament with the same intensity as these South American teams. I mean, you're coming across stories, right? There was an Argentine guy, I think he was a fan of, or it was Boca, and they were interviewing him. He said, well, he burned his car. I don't know, who knows if it was true. He said he burned his car for the insurance money to pay for the tickets to come to the Club World Cup game, right? To come watch his team, right? And even if it's not true, you're insane enough to say that. You know, he's like, well, I'm probably expecting to get arrested or get a fine when I get back to Argentina, but I don't care, right? Because I'm here. And that's how intense they are in the stands. And then obviously that rubs off on the players for this tournament. And it would be foolish to think the European teams are coming in with half that much intensity. We've mentioned in the past people like Yeshua Kimmich or whatever that have talked about how they're excited to play in the tournament. Being excited to play in the tournament is one thing, right? Yeah. Being ready to play like it's a World Cup final or that sort of intensity is another. And I think the South American teams, if anything, have proven that they're close enough that if they give max effort when the European teams aren't, they can beat them. Yeah. But I do have a funny twist to this. You ready?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that this is the best thing that could happen to the Club World Cup. No, I'm not the marketing branch of FIFA here, but hear me out on this. European teams losing a lot, getting clowned by South American teams on Twitter. I think it was Flamenco's English Twitter account. It might have been Fluminense. I'm sorry if I'm misremembering, but they picked up a win and they were making so much fun of whoever they beat. Right? I got to look it up because I've used one too many kind of this person, this team. It was. I'm apparently terrible at Google. It was Flamenco against Chelsea. And I think they were making so much fun of Chelsea on Twitter. And as stupid as it sounds, that might be what gets Europe emotionally involved in this. Because if you're a Chelsea fan, if you're a Chelsea player, you're like, well, hold on a second. You know, like you don't want to sit there and take this from a team that I'm sure Chelsea's fans and players believe that if they were fully trying, they'd be able to beat.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And it's not a funny take, like you said. I think that's a serious and a good take. I think things like that probably will increase the standard or how the European teams and fans and clubs will care about this tournament in the future. Because they will not want to come back. Atletico Madrid is not going to want to come back and, be grouped again, and Chelsea's not going to want to come back and lose to Flamengo again. Like that's not going to, I think it is only good that these things are happening for the future of the tournament and for how serious this tournament might be down the line. So in that sense, I think it definitely makes it, you're spot on. And I think it's cool. I think it's good that, there's some life to this tournament. I think through the South American teams, they give the life right now. There's, Miami is obviously Messi's giving him life too, with the win against Porto in MLS and kind of beating and potentially even advancing through the group. But it's the South American fans that absolutely have taken this tournament to the level it is at right now, and that is, where it's a party when those clubs play, and it's like I keep going back to that Bayern Boca game just because I happen to be watching that, but just to see that, like when Boca scores the 1-1, and I don't know, maybe we can show this clip here like on YouTube a little bit, but just to see the people like crying in the stands and like screaming their hearts out for their club as they tie the game up 1-1, and the absolute like Hard Rock Stadium in Miami absolutely going nuts. And I think my one of my buddies who lived with us as a friend, he was at the game, and I was texting him beforehand. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what a game!" And then I texted him the next morning, and he was like, "My ears are still ringing from the night before," and that was like at 9 a.m. the next day. Like he was like, "What an absolute unbelievable atmosphere to witness, and to give these people the kind of opportunity to go to these games." Maybe they're not able to go to games in Argentina or Brazil or wherever, and now they're all living in the US. And I know there's obviously a ton of fans like that in the US, and they're not out there supporting Inter Miami or LAFC or whoever it is. They're supporting their club that they grew up supporting, and now to be able to have them go to these games and just kind of live out that dream. Like the guy you said using the insurance money to come to this game. Like what?
I mean, it's insane. It's the type of thing you hear about in South America, right? But then to do that for the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like FIFA should switch the payment structure, right? They should be giving the South American teams a lot more money than the European teams, because the real reason that this tournament, if it could be considered any success at all, is going to be because those South American teams are bringing the heat. Who's not bringing the heat is actually MLS. Now, Inter Miami is playing right now, and they still have an opportunity to go through. They would be a betting favorite to go through. We will finish this recording before that game ends, but we'll update you as we're recording if something happens. But the other two teams, LAFC and Seattle, have kind of fallen out of it.
Yeah.
I don't blame Seattle at all. Seattle got a group of death. I think it is totally unfair to blame Seattle here. They played Botafogo and Atletico Madrid and PSG, and that's diabolical, right? That's the champion of South America.
Respectable results. I just want to say that.
They did. I mean, to be honest, as a sicko that watched at least half of Botafogo Seattle, they probably should have won that game.
Yeah.
Like I love
they were
Fry,
outplaying
the
them.
keeper. Yeah, I love Fry, the keeper for Seattle, but he had a mare on the second goal, and they should have gotten something out of that game. So you're right. But I feel like what we're seeing in terms of the results is a reflection of the intensity that each confederation is bringing in. South American teams are doing well because they're really loving it. European teams are underperforming because they're not. And then we also see MLS teams underperforming. Am I right in saying that's something that's happening because of the intensity level? I mean, Seattle's players were protesting this before the tournament.
Yeah, they were protesting the money part of it, right? But they weren't really protesting. I don't think they ever threatened to like not go out there and play hard or just kind of lay down, basically. Which I think in that group to lose to PSG 2-0, I think is respectable. And to kind of have the other performances, like you said, a really good one against Botafogo, and I'm not really sure how they played against Atletico. I didn't see that game, but I think Miami obviously had a huge win against Porto, right? That nobody was expecting in a sense. I love how the coach afterwards was like, "Yeah, we didn't lose to Inter Miami, we lost to Lionel Messi." He just kind of boiled it down to that free kick magic moment of him, obviously.
It is Messi. Lionel Messi!
And LAFC, they were kind of thrown into this very late, so it wasn't really on their radar. They had a big game against Club America to get into this tournament, so then they had to kind of travel cross country as well. So it wasn't the easiest setup for them, where Miami and Seattle had a little bit more of that. They knew they were in the tournament. They knew it was coming up on the schedule. They could plan around it a bit more. They had home games. LAFC didn't really have that. So it was a tougher setup for them, I want to say. But at the same time, you would expect them to maybe do a little bit better than what they did. But hey, it's still, I think if Miami goes through, it's a win for MLS. Am I wrong in saying that? What do you think?
I think reframing it, that is correct. It's just obviously painful for the league to see two teams at the bottom of the group, especially when one's behind ES Tunis, a team that outside of the sickos like me, you probably have had people would have never heard of before. But when you look at Inter Miami's group, they're playing right now, obviously, but it was a gettable group. If you had to pick one team that was an MLS team that would go through, it would be in a group where Palmeiras and Porto are the two teams ahead of you. But it's another thing to actually be able to go out there and do it. And I mean, Gianni Infantino, I'm sure he's like rubbing all his lucky pennies that Inter Miami doesn't lose this game, because he needs Lionel Messi in the knockouts of this tournament, because whatever game he gets, I don't know exactly how they're going to do the draw, is going to draw eyeballs. Now, if they're doing it the same as the World Cup, it's going to be PSG if they finish in second, which would, of course, then draw more eyeballs, because there's going to be all sorts of drama with him playing against his former team that he doesn't really like. So
I was hoping it would be Real Madrid. That would be cool.
Yeah, that might be therapeutic for Real Madrid fans if Real Madrid could turn on the gas there, be like, finally we got him.
Do you think they'd play? Do you think Messi would play
against Real Madrid? Of course,
Busquets and Suarez and Alba, all those guys.
I'll say something though. I think against a team as athletic as Real Madrid, playing all of those guys for a full 90 minutes is a death sentence. I mean, if you
play him, you play him.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I'm just saying that it's probably not going to happen. All right. If I'm looking at the table, it would be PSG, unless they're doing some sort of random top seed, second seed situation. Now, if Inter Miami happens
Infantino magic, that's what it's called.
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of that. Today I feel like a magician. Right, that was part of the speech. I think
that's right.
Inter Miami going through would be great for the league. Yes, that is the glass half full. Half of that is Inter Miami going through would be great for the league, and just to get MLS representation in the final 16 of the Club World Cup, which according to FIFA would be one of the 16 best club teams in the world. right? At that point, is that how this?
Yeah,
You can check my math on that.
I guess. I guess. I
I
guess you could
guess.
chalk that up as that.
We'll take
But
it.
you know, one thing that stands out to me in this tournament, and what I keep seeing on social media and everything else, is how everybody's complaining about the heat.
Yes.
To be fair, it was hot, obviously, over the last weekend. You were delayed coming onto this podcast because you took a walk outside for 20 minutes and decided that you needed to shower
No,
after.
I actually, it was a couple miles. I'm not going to lie. I was overly ambitious because it's 100 degrees in New York right now. And when I got home, I realized that, well, it would look like I'd just gotten out of the shower if I started the stream in that state. So I don't know what to do. But you're right. I think it's one of those things where they're sitting there at the casino, and if they lose the game, they just pull the lever that says it was too hot. That's why we lost.
Yeah. I mean, did you see our German friends, who I thought would be tougher than this at
Guten
the
Tag.
moment, who are spending the first half in the locker room watching the game rather than sitting on the bench because they thought that it was too hot on the bench.
Right.
To be fair, the sun was shining into the bench, so it kind of got hot, I guess. And then the second half they came out, they had umbrellas. Sun umbrellas.
Come on. Tell me this. You grew up in Germany, right? We did the math on this. It's like 86 Fahrenheit, okay, which is what, 30 Celsius, I think?
Yeah.
86 Fahrenheit is
there,
in Celsius. A lot of quick Googling by me today. Yes, 30 Celsius, just for our Celsius using friends. It gets that hot in Germany. It has to, right?
Does,
then what are they doing? Do they ever do this in the Bundesliga? Or is this just you're like you're preemptively coming up with an excuse before you lose or something? I mean, because having the subs all sit in the locker. I mean, I'm looking at the picture right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you're looking at the picture. You're sitting in the locker room watching the match on a TV. And what do you, the manager has to send somebody inside to go get somebody to come out and warm up just in case? Like, it's the whole thing is just, it's bizarre. Like, what if your manager told you to do this? You play in this country, in this heat.
But I texted the group here and I sent this picture and I was like, this is just soft. It's just soft. You know, like, come on. You know, you put on some sunscreen, sit out there. I don't know, get a towel if you're hot, get a cold towel, get a cold drink in your hands and hold it, drink some ice cubes, eat some ice cubes or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I would feel weird going into the locker room if the coach told me to go into the locker room and watch the game that I was supposed to be, or I want to be a part of, actually. I'm just not even out there on the field. I mean, the coach was, I think, the same, saying after the game how, he was also, drenched in sweat and he wasn't even playing. I was like, okay, well, it's hot in the summer. Like, like you're saying, it gets hot in the summer in Germany too. And okay, I understand there's a different humidity and levels here, maybe in the US in some of those cities, but at the same time, it's like, come on, we're not that soft, guys. I just can't get over that. I can't not call them soft because it's just soft.
It's a bad look for the Europeans because this is really the Europeans I haven't seen one non-European club talk about the temperature.
Yeah.
In these games.
So this is the question. Next year at the World Cup, Germany, are you going to send your substitutes? If you play, I don't know where you're going to play, right? But let's say you play Orlando. Is there a game in Orlando? I don't even know if there's a game in Orlando at the World Cup. There's definitely games in Miami.
There'll definitely be games in Miami. So they're going to have to deal with Florida at some point.
Exactly. Somebody plays in, European team, I don't know, Germany, whoever, sits there in the sun. All right. Are you going to send your substitutes at a World Cup game into the locker room to watch the game?
I don't think so. Not at all. Not at
all.
No,
right?
Because it looks terrible. It looks terrible.
So, like, why are you doing this now? That's where, like, you talk about the seriousness and the how South American teams take the Club World Cup more serious, how European teams aren't really like into it kind of yet because they're doing stuff like this. Like, it's just a bunch of, I don't know. I don't really like that piece. I think if you're there, then you're there to play the game the right way and to do things the right way, and you're not. And that's just, incredible.
You know what it reminds me of? I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to add a caveat. This reminds me of This is all about perception. Zlatan Ibrahimovic once got mad at a center back on one of the teams he was playing with. I think it was in Italy, because the center back was wearing gloves while it was cold.
Yeah.
And he went, how are you going to intimidate anybody as a central defender if you're wearing gloves while it's cold? Now, the gloves make your hands warmer, right? They're going to help in some way, but the perception is bad, right? I think it's the exact same thing here, where it's like, yeah, if it's actually pretty hot, it makes more sense for them to sit in the AC and then come. I mean, but technically, every time it's above 75 degrees and sunny, then all the subs should be in the dressing room, scientifically speaking, just jogging in circles or in the hallway or something. And then you trot them on out whenever they're ready to shine. The problem is that if you're the coach of the other team, if you're a player on the other team, you're like, oh, they can't handle the heat. We're going to run them into the... It gives the other team a psychological advantage. So I agree with you, but like not... I think logically it makes sense to have them in the locker room. I think it's just such a psychological disadvantage to have your subs in there that you shouldn't do it. And I think they're only doing it because this is an experimental tournament for the Europeans. The South American clubs would never do this because it would look soft.
It's a preseason tournament, right? Essentially. So I've played in Dallas or in Houston before, and Houston has this cool feature where when you walk down the tunnel, you have just a TV screen that just shows you the temperature. It just shows you the temperature in like bright red colors. And I think it said 105 one time. Me walking down that tunnel, 105. And we're about to play in Dallas on July 4th. It's going to be scorching hot. It's going to be more than 86 degrees, as Dortmund just sat through and had to deal with. So it's welcome to, whoever wants to play in MLS from those guys, welcome to MLS and welcome to the US. And you better get used to it for next year's World Cup, because there's going to be some of those games that are going to be hot and that are going to be grueling. And it's just part of playing soccer in this country, plain and simple.
It's the beauty of it. And this story is not going away. It's not going away for a whole year. At the World Cup, there will be teams, I don't know, maybe Denmark or somebody that goes out and loses, and then you're able to point at the heat and go, well, it was 88 with a lot of humidity. Yeah. We do have very exciting score updates from the Club World Cup. So nothing to do with the heat here, but there have been 2 goals in Group A, which is being sorted right now. One scored by Al Ahly, which means they are currently beating Porto. So shout out to Europe. Porto is bottom of the group with 1 point right now in a goalless draw in their first game. And the other goal, Inter Miami. Of course, your old team is up 1-0 on Palmeiras, which means they wouldn't play PSG if we're applying normal rules here. They would play against Botafogo in the round of 16, which of course opens up the possibility, that's obviously a more gettable game than PSG, that Inter Miami could try to make a run to the quarterfinal of this tournament, and the Messi hype train could leave the station. But that is the early standing in Group A. Palmeiras right now is still holding on to the second spot. But if Al Ahly scores again, that could change.
Wow, interesting. We love these live updates here. As all the listeners that will tune into this will already know what has happened. And
they can Google it right now. Yeah, but if you're listening along with the podcast, you can get the live reaction to how all this happened. You never get that on a podcast. Yeah, how does it feel to see your old team top of the group in the Club World Cup right now?
Hey, from the vibe I got like 3-4 weeks ago, after they kind of crashed out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Vancouver, that was like rock bottom. And then they had a couple tough results in MLS. They were like, oh, they're gonna get beat so bad at the Club World Cup, and here we are. I'm happy. Like, I'm genuinely happy for those guys, and for, I think, for the league, yes, but generally happy for the guys that I know still on that team, because I know how much they care, I know how hard they work, and what it means to them, and what an awesome experience to see guys like, I always go back to the guys that I connected most with, right? Like Noah Allen, Ian Frey, those guys play and play really good games at, against Porto, and then now again, like it's just cool. Just cool to see, and kind of makes me excited for them. Like I obviously, a piece of me wishes I was still a part of that, and I was there to kind of experience those games with them for sure. But it's cool. Like I said, I hope they can go through and win the group even, and and kind of see if they get a more favorable draw to hopefully advance.
Oh yeah, I mean they're carrying the MLS flag like we said earlier, and they might be carrying that flag a lot higher if they can pull off a win against Palmeiras. So very impressive team. I got to watch them, firsthand at MetLife Stadium to kind of kick the tournament off. And we're gonna go back to talking about the fans now, particularly because we came across one clip that I wanted to bring up because it highlights that South American obsession, and it also is something that I think the club, I've never seen this sort of scene at the actual World Cup, at the men's national team World Cup. But you don't see these sort of scenes. It's more of a kumbaya vibe, but there is an edge, a difference the Club World Cup can provide, and that's club rivals. So the video is this. It is a Boca fan who has decided to attend the match between River Plate and Monterrey. Now, if you are uneducated in the ways of the world of football, Boca and River don't exactly like each other. And you can see that there is a lot of animosity in the stadium. And basically he needs like a military escort to get out of the river section. And again, I've seen this happen more than once in this tournament. Urawa Reds, or a Japanese team, and one of their the fans of their rival showed up, flew from Japan to hate on the team. Yeah, it was an interview outside the stadium, right? The guy had flown from Japan to go to the game and root for the team playing against Urawa Reds, which has been a very successful move for him so far, because Urawa Reds, they're in last in the group with 2 losses. So that guy's having a really great trip so far to California. This is the sort of stuff I think that, we talk about the South American fans lighting a fire for this tournament. This is the sort of stuff that I think could take the tournament to the next level. I respect the guts on these people too. I would never do this in a million years. I'll be upfront.
I mean, the Boca fan is incredible to me. He's if you watch that video and you see he gets the life cussed out of him, that he is taking so much abuse in that moment. But you're saying it perfectly, because at the World Cup, it's more of a kumbaya thing, right? They would all be wearing Argentina jerseys.
Yeah.
And they would all be best friends, and they would all be celebrating and trying to, cheer on their team and everything. And it wouldn't be Boca versus River. It'd be Argentina, right? But here it's like this rivalry from the same country. And obviously Boca River is one of the biggest rivalries in the world. I mean, what is he thinking, first of all? And second of all, I even feel bad for the security guards that have to kind of escort him out of there. And he seems to be very, very close to the field. So I don't think it was a quick and short exit for him. So yeah, definitely a crazy story, and kind of cool to see.
You love to see the passion. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm going to say something that I feel like is an improvement. Nobody threw anything at him, and he didn't get punched. Yeah. So that is
not that we see in the video. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, true, that we see in the video. But that is an improvement based off my coverage of South American fans. That this was, in my opinion, proper fandom, I guess, in the sense that you're just yelling incredible insults at him. Obviously, he needed a security escort to get out of there, so maybe you should have been able to let the guy enjoy the game at his seat, but I'm also not a River fan, so what do I know? Definitely the security guards, though. A situation where you're looking at this guy and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Why? Well, I'm having to deal with all this shit now just because you wanted to pull this move and wear this jersey. How did he sneak in too? What do you wear like a hoodie until you get to your seat and then take it off? Because there's no way you would have even gotten to his seat with all these people around.
Probably. Or wear different jersey, a different shirt over it, and then just kind of, reveal yourself. Yes.
Would you ever go to a Dortmund game in a Bayern shirt? Not in the home section. Would you ever do that?
No chance. No, it's like almost suicidal. What do you want to get beaten? And kind of, I don't know. It's just it would be too crazy. And hey, from what I've seen, this guy got off easy. It could have gotten much worse. You're saying, it could have been punches. They could have been. You see sometimes in South America where they pull knives out and stuff. It gets scary like that. So glad, obviously, that didn't happen to him. who knows how much more abuse and how much more, um, yeah, stuff he's taken from fans now, even after being on social media and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he a life-altering decision that he's made. We'll keep you updated on whether that guy is spotted alive at the next game or how that works. Right? He's asking for it for sure. But shout out to the River Plate fans. That's all I was trying to say for not doing that stuff, because South American fans are definitely known, as you said, for doing a little bit more. We're going to go now to a pioneering adjustment that's occurred in the game. So I think we've checked the 3 boxes in the Club World Cup. Right, we've checked the heat, we've checked the fans, and now it's time to check the innovation within the game. This is from, and I'm so interested to understand why this has never happened before, because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I don't know why I'd never thought of this, but I'm stunned that it's legal. Monterrey v. Inter. Inter has a free kick. Not the best position, but kind of top of the box, as you can see on this freeze frame. And as you'll also notice, Monterrey, if you're watching on YouTube anyways, if you're just listening, allow me to describe this beautifully for you. Monterrey has a wall that is split in half. They have a wall that is basically 4 guys to the left of the goalkeeper, 3 guys to the right. And the goalkeeper is standing virtually in the middle of the goal because the free kick is from straight on. And so you're basically trying to cover both sides. Have you ever seen this before? I suppose I should ask. I've never seen this before.
No. I clicked on the link when I saw it in our rundown here, and I was like, wait a second, this makes a ton of sense.
It's perfect. It's perfect, but like just for this situation. Because as somebody that played goalkeeper growing up, it was always frustrating if there's a free kick basically dead on, 25 yards dead on. You would pick a side to kind of put the wall, and she'd just kind of put a big wall there and then I want to take that side away. But if it's dead on, you really just want to block off both sides. I'm going to say something though. Is pioneering as this wall is terrible.
Yeah.
This wall is not. I don't think it's great.
Very wild, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, look at this. Like, let's look at this for a second. The left 4, okay? Because by the time the guy's taking the free kick, there's 4 on each side. There's a lot of space between the left 4 and the actual pole.
Yeah.
If the right-footed taker runs up to take this kick, you can just bend that right into that side netting, and the wall's not going to stop it. At wall height, it's in there. I've changed. I've done a complete 180 on this. I think Monterrey has gone for mad science and come out with just madness. Now, the actual free kick attempt was not very good. Tried to go basically right down the middle. But are you bringing this to? Bringing this to Minnesota?
I don't know. I'm gonna show it, or we're gonna maybe talk about it for sure. But it's definitely interesting though, because I feel like if you do it right and you are disciplined in it, and you don't give that much space, and you kind of cover just the sides of the goal, it obviously gives the goalkeeper. Because what I feel like goalkeepers, I obviously have never been in this position, so don't take this as an expert opinion whatsoever. I'm not a goalkeeper, and never intend to be either. But I feel like they're always scared that they're going to get beat over the wall, right? And me as a field player, like if the guy puts it up or 90, kudos to him, like great. But you don't want to be scored on the goalkeeper side. So if you make that adjustment and take the goalkeeper's post side, like, I don't know, just like the 2 yards next to the post on each side away, it obviously makes the goal so much smaller for the keeper to cover. And I would feel comfortable, with almost any keeper to making a save within kind of the frame of him, right? Like within kind of his wingspan. And you got to make the save then, right? Where, okay, you tell the keeper, all right, well, we got the walls. Don't worry about if it goes over the walls and he puts it in the upper 90 and like an absolute stunner of a free kick. Like, what are the chances of that? First of all, so you play the odds game in a way, right? But it definitely takes the guessing for the keeper out of it. Was like, oh, do I cover the behind the wall like curler, or do I kind of stay on my side? Because if I cover the behind the wall, then and I get beat on my side, it always looks bad on me. So I overplay that. It's like always this back and forth, I feel like, where you just make the goal smaller by having 2 walls on each side, like on a central free kick. Hey, it kind of makes sense.
It is basically designed to funnel the ball into the goalkeeper, into an area where they're comfortable. But you have to do it right, and I don't think they're doing it right, which surprises me because they do have Sergio Ramos as a part of that wall. But everything that works, and this worked, was done right. No, that doesn't sound right. I don't like that. That was bad. that was bad philosophy. But yes, Inter and Monterrey, that was good fun. I believe ended in a 0-0 or something of that nature. But yeah, Monterrey's got a couple of draws and could get mixed up with River Plate and Inter on the final day. But we'll go ahead and leave the Club World Cup and its split walls and everything else, and we're going to head to the Gold Cup, where the United States is advanced from its group. Reports of the U.S. demise greatly exaggerated. The U.S. finishes with 9 points, beat Saudi Arabia, beat Trinidad and Tobago, beat Haiti, and is going through with every chance potentially to win this tournament. So why does it feel like they were still bad?
Well, you just named the opponents, and you didn't really talk about the scorelines much. I mean, I think we talked about how therapeutic one of the wins was, but then you feel like you watch the game against Haiti, and it's like, well,
Brendan Aronson cuts it along. Tillman is there. Malik Tillman.
The opportunity is there for him. Oh boy.
Given away by Matt Freese and a miss hit ball. It's in the back of the net.
It's maintained. It's all the stuff he's doing throughout the game, as well as Ajimong.
Ajimong again. Pierrot all the way out. Patrick Ajimong. It's in. The flag is standing down. The U.S. is back in front.
Back to kind of reality a little bit. So it was, not that great. Got the job done ultimately at the end of the day. Haiti obviously made it difficult. But yeah, ultimately got the job done, and I think there have been times before where the job didn't get done, and we lost in the group, like at Copa America or other tournaments, and therefore, it's a win. Take it, chalk it off as a win in a sense, and now you're on to knockout games. And that's where you want to be. You play Costa Rica now, actually here in Minneapolis on Sunday, which will be a cool game. I don't know yet if I can go to it. I hope I can. It depends a little bit on the kickoff time and how I'm feeling after our game, because we play in New York the day before. But yeah, hey, you made it through. You don't, I don't know what the vibe is inside the camp and stuff, but you have 9 points. You got the job done. It wasn't pretty. It was good at times, not so good at other times, which is kind of what you get, I feel like, with the squad that you have. Guys haven't been a part of the team a long time. They haven't played together like that a lot. So, but you don't really feel too good about it?
No, I think in a tournament where it's best on best, like, the way you talk about, or I always talk about Portugal's Euros win in 2016, where it's like, yeah, it's a win. Take it. Screw it.
Yeah.
You're still alive in the tournament, and eventually only one team's left alive. So as long as you're there, you got a chance. But this is a tournament where you're trying to build, right? This is we talked about it with the Club World Cup. For European teams, this is a preseason tournament, essentially. That's what this is for the actual World Cup. The Trinidad and Tobago game was therapeutic. I still agree with what we said and what you were just talking about. Totally. The Saudi Arabia win was solid. I'm just concerned with it just doesn't feel good. I get the same feeling I had watching the U.S. national team play under Greg Berhalter, where it feels like, for some reason, even though it's not the full A team out there, we're playing with ankle weights. We're playing with shackles. We're playing with this. We're not flying at the level that maybe, that we could be. I mean, obviously the goal that Haiti scored was a mistake by Matt Freese, who's the new goalkeeper for the U.S. Pochettino's going to keep him as the starter for now. Friend of the podcast, Matt Turner, obviously somebody that's still around in the conversation and started for the team at the last World Cup. But goalkeeper is all of a sudden a question mark. The one position that the U.S. always felt good about before. I think questions being raised at the goalkeeper position, sweating out a result against Haiti, sweating out a result against Saudi Arabia, which isn't as bad. like getting out of the group of the Gold Cup is below the bare minimum standard for the United States, right? We did the math. The U.S. has more population than the rest of the continent combined. Okay,
Yeah.
and more money invested and whatever. So yeah, you want to take the win and say congrats, but that you do that if you're Costa Rica. You do that if you are, and I mean no offense to Costa Rica because they have a great footballing history, but you do that if you're Jamaica. You go,
Yeah.
okay, cool. We take the win. Let's get to the quarterfinal. Let's see what happens. If you're the United States, you've been to the knockouts in 4 of the last 5 World Cups. You need to show more. I think there are guys that are showing it that Pochettino's going to involve in the World Cup squad in a year. It's just, I want it to feel like we're playing as well as we could, and we're not there yet. Obviously, because this is a preseason tournament of sorts, there's still time. But does that at least make sense in terms of the why it feels
I think
gross?
it does. I think it does, and in a lot of ways, the tournament for them starts now, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think
true.
now you play Costa Rica, and you have real, knockout games, and now if you were to lose, it would be just as bad as almost getting grouped, right? Like, these are now the game starts. Now the tournament starts, and this is where you can really show if you take a step forward or not as a federation, and heading positively into the summer. I think we've always said that if they were to play Mexico or Canada and have a really good performance and maybe lose because we didn't have the better roster there, or the guys from Europe there, okay, different story. But you definitely can't lose to Costa Rica. I think even with that roster, I don't think you should be losing to Costa Rica. And therefore, yeah, we'll see how they do. Obviously, you have Canada who's tying against Curacao. Like also are struggling a little bit. So it's interesting. It's interesting how that tournament, yeah, just kind of maybe the US was thinking a little too much about, okay, we're already through to the next round, so that game against Haiti is maybe not the most important, but I don't know. It's certainly interesting to see how they are going forward. Were you texting with any of your Haitian guys, by the way, or were you kind of chill on that?
So I think a couple of them were involved in the camp
Yeah.
for the national team. But I do. I'm not gonna lie, have a soft spot for Haiti after making that documentary. And I was, well, one half of me is watching it and going, "What is the U.S. doing?" There was another part of me, not another whole half, but a part of me that's sitting there going, "Oh, this is really nice, like for
Yeah.
them." And they need this, and I know they're really happy with it and really proud of it, and thinking of all the people that I met kind of along the way. Unfortunately, none of them actually were on the field for this particular game, but I know that that's a football mad country that where it's another great example for why the U.S. should be doing better. These guys are not given the same opportunities that players are given growing up in the United States, right? They are given a whole lot less to work with, and they were able to give the United States a lot of problems. So I was happy for them in that sense, but they are out of the tournament. Costa Rica, Mexico, the United States, Saudi Arabia have advanced through to the knockouts. My boys from Curacao, they're keeping it alive. You mentioned them. I am a big fan of them because they're the only team that has a snowball's chance in hell of beating Iceland's record for the smallest country to ever make the World Cup. You should have known I had some weird fun fact about
Of course.
Curacao. Yeah.
Every
actually.
episode, I can't wait for that. Yeah.
Anyways, Curacao, they have a chance going into the final match day because of that draw, and then Panama and Jamaica are trying to be in pole position, but they play each other. So Guatemala is probably going to make the knockouts, so that's great for them. I do love the Gold Cup for everybody that's not the U.S., Mexico, and now kind of Canada, I guess, because the sorting of the rest of those teams. I mean, 3 of those teams are going to the World Cup, basically, that I've mentioned, and so this is a very big test for them with their A teams. But hopefully you can go to that game against Costa Rica. You got a prediction? Do you think the U.S. is actually going to win?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to go through, and I think they're going to even make it to the final. I don't know. I think they have some guys in there. I think they can be quite gritty and quite like in those knockout rounds. Like I think of guys like Tyler Adams, obviously back getting playing again and playing a lot of minutes again. And I like Sebastian Berhalter has been great, and I know obviously him personally. So I think they got some. I like Tillman. I like what he brings at times, and he's done well in those games. So I think they'll be going through to the final, and we will head. I think out of this tournament more positively than again.
I'll tell you this. I am absolutely rooting for and hoping for that. And fortunately, because of the 3 group stage wins, that is in line, right? That is a distinct possibility. It's time to hit the fan questions. And we actually have 3 of them today. Thank you guys so much for submitting all of your questions and stuff. And
can I have one disclaimer before?
Oh, yes.
Send some questions for Zealand too.
Hey, last week, both questions were for both of us. I think you're but you're such a nice guy. You always want me to be included, and I appreciate that. But no, I
have a question for you.
Okay.
Actually, before we start.
Before we get to the fan questions.
Yeah, before we get to the fan questions. This is something one of our video guys said like in passing the other day. He was like, he's the guy that flies the drones and like does like video analysis for us.
Nice. Okay.
At training. Sometimes when you're like at training and you just it's like the drones flying above you watching training.
No pressure.
But he was like in passing, he was like, "Oh, I think I just read Football Manager 26 was confirmed. You got a lot to talk about this week, huh?" I was like, "I didn't see any of that. I got to ask him." So I'm asking you, is that true or not?
I have not seen anything that confirmed it. Okay. But I will say there is no option but for them to release the game. Like they have to release the game. Obviously, if you don't know, I'm somebody that make a lot of YouTube videos about the game Football Manager and stuff, hence the manager half of this podcast. They canceled FM25, the 2025 edition, and 26 has to come out, basically. Like, come hell or high water, even if the game is not finished, they have to release something. And I know because they posted screenshots of the game before 25, they had a mostly workable game a year ago. And so they've got something. So even though I don't know if I've seen that announcement myself, because I feel like I would have been tap dancing somewhere. Yeah. I can go ahead and confirm it for you right now. Like, it has to happen. Okay. There is no other option. The game has to come out. And now for Julian's questions. No, but dude, if they actually did release that and I didn't see it, then I'm slacking.
I know that would be crazy.
I would have led with that. You kidding? So this one comes from Alex Cordova on YouTube. Said, definitely would love a signed generic Walmart brand shirt. LOL. I have a question for Julian. What is one of the best pieces of advice you've received from either Messi, any of these guys, Messi, Suarez, Jordi Alba, or Busquets? Love the podcast and can't wait for the next episode. Thank you, Alex. So the best advice I've gotten from Messi, no, I'm just kidding.
We love you listening to the podcast. Thank you. And here's the next episode. That is so hard.
Ooh. Yeah, you could give a couple, I guess.
Hard. The single best, or like, I mean, me and Busquets had so many conversations just about different pressures, how to get out of different scenarios as a team, how to problem solve essentially on the fly, right? Like he has such a good understanding of the game and how to manipulate an opponent to get the ball to where he wants the ball to go, even if the opponent kind of blocks that, right? Which is mostly to Leo, to Messi. Like there's so many ways for him to things to kind of tap into that. If it's through a pass or through a little bit of a dribble or it's mostly through a pass and a bounce pass to kind of move an opponent, and how close and how far you want to be from a guy, from your own player, right? The closer you are, for example, the harder it is to press, because you can have quicker passes kind of around the guy. And if you were to lose it, you'll be able to win it back right away again. Like that type of stuff. I think talking with the other guys wasn't as easy. So through talking, there wasn't much really that I kind of just be like, hey, can you give me an advice? Can you give me a tip here? But I think just seeing their connection and how much they know what the other one does, right? I think that is the biggest thing to me. Leo knows that Jordi just takes off sometimes on the left side, and when he feels like it's the right moment for Leo to just play the chip pass over the back line right into stride, and for then Jordi Alba knows that Leo is going to be in the cutback spot, right, every time. And how many goals have we seen like that where Messi plays the ball wide, Alba cuts the ball back, Messi one times it right next to the post. Like, it's like clockwork, So just understanding how much relationships really, really matter, I think is one of the biggest things that I've taken away.
Well, that makes sense. No, I mean, I think you just need to find your Jordi Alba, and you can pop 1,000 career goals too. What do you think?
Well, I feel like I would be the Jordi Alba on the right side. I think I need to
Yeah.
find my Messi.
I
Does
mean,
that make
it's
sense?
like if somebody's got to do it, I would be honored to step up and be your Messi. The second
Yeah.
one comes from Cot, maybe Kotuk Stories or Cot UK Stories on YouTube. Did anyone get Julian out on a boat to do some Minnesota fishing yet? That's a rite of passage here, similar to tater tot hot dish. You
No,
got
but
fishing in the state of 10,000 lakes or whatever.
no, but let's do it. I'm all for it. I'm all in.
This is a challenge to the Minnesota media team.
Yes.
You gotta get Julian out on a boat fishing now.
Whoever sends me the best proposal in terms of boat size, fishing experience, amenities that are included with it, is the childcare provided? All those types of things matter. Then I'm totally in no. I would love to go. I love fishing. I've done it a little bit in the ocean in Fort Lauderdale, actually, and Tampa area when we were in Florida. I actually went in the Everglades a couple times as well this past winter. So I've done that piece, but yeah, I would love to go. I love how quiet and peaceful it is, and how even if you don't catch anything, it's still a ton of fun to me, to just sit there and be kind of just away from the world, and you kind of have your moments. So yeah, send me something. Let's set it up. Let's do it.
You hear that? Boat size matters. That's important. So you have the right boat. That would be awesome. I wish I could tag along for that, but alas, I'm stuck in hell, otherwise known as New York, 100 degrees. Thank you. Brendan, third question on Instagram. What is something you wish your youth coach or youth system experience did differently for your development? I'm going to answer this one for Julian. He probably wishes that the coach didn't look at him and tell him that he couldn't make it.
I think I just wished for them to be a little bit more relaxed and not as result driven. And which is essentially saying the same thing, right? Just personally. You kind of boiled it down to just me, right? Like if they were to actually more so look at me developing, rather than outcome oriented, and sometimes injecting a little bit more joy and fun into everything, I think that would have gone a long way. So it was very much very, very much about quality as high as possible. Like, yes, that matters, and you want to get better, and if you're not having the right quality on the training field and in games and stuff, then it doesn't really make you better. But there have to be times where it's about fun, it's about joy, and as a kid and as a youth coach especially, I think you have to inject that, and you have to keep that within the kids. And that's my number one advice to kids every time they ask me, is like, have fun. Go out there and have fun. If you don't have fun playing, you're not going to get better. You don't want to get better if you don't enjoy it. You don't want to be out there practicing, I don't know, the 20 moves with the right foot, 20 moves with the left foot, if you don't actually enjoy doing step overs. Like, I never enjoyed doing step overs. I'd rather enjoy, I don't know, playing with a friend, passing or shooting or crossing or whatever it is, like, so find the joy in the game, and then work within that, to get better. That's my biggest thing. I think it was very much too drilled and too like serious almost, and that's what I think is and we should have this conversation on a much bigger level about youth development, and what it should be like, and what my experience was growing up in Germany versus what it is here in the US, obviously, and all those things. But that is the number one thing I think that sticks out.
I think there's definitely a podcast brewing at some point, maybe when we have the right guest in or something, where we're going to talk about youth development incredibly extensively, because we've hit on it before with Tim Ream and so on. But I think the biggest takeaway is Julian Gressel, not a lot of stepovers in an MLS career. total.
No, I think I can count those easily on one hand. Easily.
But there are a lot of trophies. So
Yeah.
you kind of proven your own point at this point. And that is why you have a super fan, which brings us to our main story today, obviously. The world's biggest Julian Gressel fan, named Toby Dressel, which, yeah, perfect,
It's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
Toby Dressel. Shout out Toby. He's got this jersey collection. I realize you're not seeing anything if you're listening to audio only, but it is a huge collection of Julian
Makes me
Gressel
blush.
jerseys. Yes, just like a ton of Julian Gressel jerseys from the entire career. He also wrote this to us. I'll read it now. My name is Tobias Dressel, Toby, and I am originally from Germany. As you can see, I have been collecting Julian's jerseys for quite some time and have almost all of them, except for his first year at Atlanta. I hate that I missed out on that so much. What drew me to him was the name, obviously, and his story. On top of him being a great player and an awesome dude, can confirm. Like him, I also came to the States to play sports and now have my citizenship. The jersey I'm holding is actually a game-worn one, which he gifted me last year at a game in Nashville.
Yep.
I enjoy the podcast and watch every episode. Y'all are awesome and what y'all do, respectively. How does it feel, Julian, to meet your super fan, Toby Dressel?
To be honest, when I met him last year in Nashville, I didn't know that he was such a big fan to that extent. I saw last year in Nashville, I saw them at the warm-up. They were first row, sitting there. He was wearing my jersey and had a Germany flag. So obviously I see the Germany flag and then I look over and it's, it was him. And then I said in warm-ups, I was like, I'll come by after the game. So they stayed there and I gave it, and then we got talking and then I gave him the jersey from that game. And yeah, it's just cool. Just cool to just see people like this and to, we always talk about this and it's always the same story for me, but to like give people the type of feelings and emotions that makes me happy, and it makes me happy because that is why I play the sport and why I do what I do and why I work every day on what I do. It is to give people emotions, to have people feel something and him I connected with through not just my play, but through, other things as well, like us having very similar last names. His first name is actually the same name as my brother. So Tobias Gressel is actually my brother's name. So it's literally only one letter difference between the names,
That's perfect.
which is hilarious. But yeah, it's just cool. It's cool. And thank you so much. I don't say it enough. Not just to him, but to all the fans out there that support me, that support us here, that send me all the love. We sometimes talk about how much hate you get and how much negativity there is, but there's also a lot of love and a lot of positive feedback that it gets overlooked at times. So I'm so thankful for that. And but I definitely want to know who the biggest Zealand fan is out there. So whoever's listening, if you are the biggest Zealand fan, please send us your way. Leave a comment down below of why you are the biggest Zealand fan. I feel like there's some crazy ones out there.
No, there are some ones that are crazy in a troubling extent, right? That have had to been like removed from places by security. But I do have a subreddit, right? Just for people that kind of follow me on the internet. And somebody did post in that. I think I have our inside candidate here. Somebody did post in that a while ago. They got a tattoo of my logo, which I find unbelievable, right? Because I start the channel, right? And I get this logo made for $5 on Fiverr, and then it gets to such an extent that somebody is getting that logo kind of tattooed on their shoulder. But it made sense. They were like, I was in a really rough place. I found your videos. You really helped me kind of get out of that rough place. And so it was kind of almost like a thank you, like to memorialize that. And it was very, all the feelings that you described where you're just like, wow, I'll take it even one step further. I didn't necessarily realize that I was having that effect on people. Because you at least get to go in the stadium and you see all the people kind of in the stadium shouting in the front row. I am always in this chair, basically. I'm very rarely not in this chair doing any of the things that I'm doing. So it was very touching. But I'm interested to see the comments. Maybe somebody has multiple Zealand tattoos. Who knows? But shout out to Toby Dressel, your long-lost brother, who has collected all of those Julian Gressel jerseys. Just awesome to see. And thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast today. If you got more questions, please comment on YouTube, send them in on Instagram. We'd really appreciate it. Also, make sure to tune in because Julian's going to be playing the night that this podcast comes out. So that's just, you can look out for a Julian Gressel game. I know Toby Dressel's going to be watching, so that's going to be huge. But thank you so much for watching. I look forward to your questions coming in next week. We love you guys, and please subscribe on YouTube because more than half of you haven't. How dare you? But we love you anyways.
Thank you.